Hey, good afternoon, LaunchCode. My name's Mike. I'm a LaunchCode mentor. I want to tell you guys a little bit today about how to use the GDB debugger, specifically how to use conditional breakpoints. You'll notice that as you guys move on in the problem sets, they're going to make it more and more difficult to use printf statements. Especially with problem set 3, problem 15, the program actually takes up the entire terminal, and so you're not able to use print statements anymore to look at the output that your program is making, and it forces you to use the debugger. And unfortunately, there are some situations where using the debugger is not always the ideal circumstance, because inside of recursion or inside of long loops, using the debugger can be quite a tedious process. So let me walk you guys through how to solve a bug using, on problem set 15, using GDB and conditional breakpoints. Alright, so here's the game of 15. I sped up the speed so we don't have to wait as long, and also I'm piping in the solution problem set to make it solve itself on its own. Now you'll notice that this problem is correct, except that it says illegal move at the end, which tells me it must be going past the point. It must not be recognizing when the game is actually won, because we're in a winning state, but it's not confirmed that to me, the user. So let's open it up in GDB. Okay. So what we're going to want to do here is, I think the problem's in this one method, because it's not stopping when we have the correct configuration. So I'm going to put a breakpoint at 87. The problem is, if I just say break 87, it's going to stop on breakpoint 87 every time it goes through that loop. There's over 100 steps in solving this problem. That means we're going to have to break on 87 100 times before we actually even get a chance to look at the bug, and that's unacceptable. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if, we can say if, and now we can say any variable that we want, and we're going to say tile, if tile is equal to 8, because we know that's the last tile that it moved. And so now we're only going to break on line 87 whenever tile is equal to 8, and tile is defined right here. So whenever it went through and last time it got the tile, we want it to be 8. Set the breakpoint. So one other tricky thing about using GDB is that if you have to have command line argument input to GDB, there's no clear specific way to do it, because you don't do it whenever you start up GDB. You actually do it when you say run on your program. And so you'll notice that I pasted in the command that I would normally use to run 15. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of the /15. I'm going to say run. So run is like saying /15. And now we can include all of our command line arguments just like normal. So I'm going to hit enter. Great, we breaked at main. After each breakpoint, you can say the word continue, and it will continue on until it reaches the next breakpoint, which is 87, and it should only hit 87 after the last tile was 8. Great, fantastic. Now we know that's not the spot we want to stop at, so we're just going to say continue again. Another GDB pro tip is that you can just say C instead of continue. Like you can just say R instead of run, or you could just say N instead of next. Awesome. Guys, this is great. Within less than a minute, instead of having a break at that breakpoint hundreds of times, we are now at the point where we can diagnose our bug. You'll notice that I'm on line 87, And really what I want to do is, I know this one, right, prints out false. I know that for a fact. What I want to do is I want to find out what's going on in 1. So I'm going to use the command step, and it's going to let me go inside that method. You'll notice now that I am inside the method. Now here we have another situation in which we've got a double nested loop. We're going to have to go through this loop about 20 times in order to finally get to the spot that we want to be. And I don't want to go through it that many times, so I'm going to set a breakpoint on 244 if I equals 2. Great, so now we're on the very last line. So 1 is going through, it's checking to make sure that each number is smaller than the previous, and it's going through each line to do that. So now we're on the very last line. Now we're going to loop through the things on the very last line. So I'm going to set another conditional breakpoint. Break if j is equal to 2. Okay, great. Now we're on that very last spot. I can print, instead of saying info I and info print I and print j, I can say info locals. And it's going to print out all of the variables that are current to the session. Okay, I should jump right over that. And let's see where we're going. Okay. Print out the code, see where we're at. Okay, and so now that I'm down in this code, I finally realized that, if I take a look at line 253 in the debugger, now that I've debugged into this code, I noticed that I'm not actually offsetting my array. By the array length, we have to subtract 1 from the array length. Otherwise, it will give us incorrect results. So let's go ahead and, since I found the error, I'm going to go ahead and quit GDB. I'm going to say gedit 15.c ampersand. Open this up. I'm actually just going to do a Control F, type in 1, find the method. Great, now when I go back and make it, run it, Great, works correctly, bug fixed.